Frank Theater's provocative production of Max Frisch's classic play The Arsonists was premiered in the Twin Cities last week. This play is a cautionary tale in which apathy and greed allows evil to flourish. I went to the theater to talk to the director, Wendy Knox, and we have this conversation. Wendy Knox, and were kind enough to give us her time before. One of the shows showing tonight is The Arsonists, and that's a little bit about the theater itself. Frank Theater.
Frank Theater was started in 1989. I founded it along with an actor because we were frustrated with the level of complacency that we saw in the theater around us. So we started a theater that was would give artists a chance to be challenged and to stretch and to grow, and also to sort of challenge our audience to think about the world that we live in, to raise questions and make them think about what we're doing.
What a concept! And being in a Twin City, which is really a heavily also, we have a lot of venues all over, almost a Broadway kind of level. So, how do you find your niche in all of this?
Well, that's a question we ask ourselves all the time because our work is very eclectic. We've done Shakespeare, we've done the Greeks, we've also done almost half of our work have been new scripts. So our work changes with every production. And we also move around. We've performed in just about every venue in town. This is the third time we've been at the Ritz. We've performed at the Guthrie. We've performed at the Southern Theater. And then about 10 years ago, we decided we didn't really need a theater, so we started performing in some empty buildings.
That's how the theater started anyway. You perform in public places. So you go into the original here. And as an artistic director, you must have some criteria. You cannot just accept anybody walks through the door. So tell us through the process, creative process of selecting a play or.
Plays are recommended to me by different directors, by playwrights will come up and say, look at this, actors will say this, and so it does have to have those two marks of, first of all, being asking some important questions about the world we live in. If I read a script and if I'm scratching my head or saying, how do we do this? There's a good chance we'll end up doing it because there is a challenge there. And then I might find something, or someone might bring me a script, and then I will read it. Then we'll oftentimes sit around with the kind of core group of Frank actors and just read it and discuss it. And sometimes we'll read it and we won't even finish it, and someone will say, "We got to do this play." Other times, a few months. It's a Frank. Yes, it is.
We know this. Arab Americans, artist Mohammed Yabdri, this guy is making noises in the last. He's just been here for a year or two. Tell us a little bit how did he end up here?
So I met Mohammed some time ago, and and then I've just met him, and he's just such a wonderful guy. And then last summer I saw his Fringe show, where he and Taos did their one-act, right, and it was so great. That pairing was really wonderful, and Mohammed's such a fabulous performer. He's just an amazing, physically and stuff like the piece was wonderful. And so when we were auditioning for this show, and so he came and he did a monologue in French, and it was great. I don't know what it was about, but I could understand a little bit. But he was just great. So I wanted to work with him, and so then we got to have him in this cast. So he's been great. He's really.
Yes. Tell us about how did he come up with the name anyway?
But Frank Theater actually came up because when we started the theater, we didn't set out to start a theater. We were going to do a project that we thought needed to be done because we needed to have some challenges for us and for our audience. And so we were doing this very gritty German play, and we had to have a name for the press release. And the press release had to be out the next morning. And we hadn't even thought about what we were going to. And we realized, oh my gosh, we have to have some name, and we couldn't do the Wendy's Theater. So we were frantically, after having way too much caffeine, we were like, we'll just be tablecloth theater, we'll be microphone theater. And I had seen a Finnish film that day where there were 16 characters in the film, and they were all named Frank. And so I said, let's be
confusing.
It was very funny, but someone's like, it was so funny. But so then I said, let's be Frank Theater, and we thought that was really funny. And people now will come up and say that name is so perfect for what you do, because our work is very direct and very straightforward.
Very frank.
Yes, it's very frank, and so it's funny how that worked out.
Well, great. Let's talk about the play itself, the Arsonists. It sounds a little bit scary for an Arab American to be in a film like that in this time, you know.
Was named. It's written by a Swiss playwright, Max Frisch, and the original title was Biederman and the Firebugs. And Firebugs means like arsonists, and so yeah, Firebugs, which sounds like a much kind of a cute little name, much nicer than the. But we, it's kind of a classic play it's not widely known, but you, like in theater history classes, you will read this. And so I read it in college. And last year I came across, this was a new translation that was done for the Royal Court Theatre in London. It was done in 2007. And so we read it, and as I was reading it, it just really struck me. It's like, it was one of those plays where it's like, I think we need to do this. He didn't write it in response to the rise of Nazism. He wrote it in 1952, but he kind of wrote it in response to the rise of fascism in other places in Europe. It's
very timely now.
Yeah. It's really, I wrote something yesterday too, that when we started rehearsing this play 2 months ago, it felt very timely then, but now in the intervening with the circus that we have going on with the election, it's frighteningly relevant. Be happy. And the play is about, it's centered on a middle-class businessman who and there's been all these arson fires going on in town, and it opens up the first monologue in the play. He says, it happens the same way all the time. The arsonists, they show up on your doorstep, they wangle their way into your house, and next thing they're sleeping in your attic, and then your house burns down. So he tells you what's going to happen in the play, and then you watch it. And it's about our ability to deny things that are happening right in front of our face and to sort of just turn away from it, thinking it's so much easier to do that. And you realize that the more you do that, the deeper in you get, and that, again, that's what seems to be happening very much in the world we live in today. So.
Who's your typical audience? If you can just give us a character, the people who actually come every show and you're happy when you see them here.
But our audience is not a typical profile. The demographics break down. It's mostly women. It's mostly white women. It's mostly probably 55 to 60. That's the core group. But it's much, in terms of a broader demographic, it's not just theater people. We have a lot of activists. We have a lot of academics. We have people that are sort of involved in other parts of the community. So it's a very interesting, and it changes with each show depending on what we're doing. So.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for having us here. Wendy Knox is the artistic director of Frank Theater, and they have a show tonight. They have a play with the Arsonists, and they are not banning Muslims. We actually have.
We're encourage
Muslims to come.
On stage.
Yeah, and maybe we can have a chance to talk to some of the audience when they are done. Thinking about it. Well, thank you so much for having us, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you for having me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. With the phenomenon of Donald Trump and his Islamophobic platform, the Frank Theater's provocative production of the play The Arsonists was a timely play. I went to the theater to see the play and talk to some of the people who attended there. This was made, I'm sure in Europe during, fascism and all what is spreading. Yes. But how timely it is to have it now.
I feel like I'm watching Donald Trump emerging from this play. It's horrible. It's very disturbing.
It definitely resonated with me as far as how extreme views can kind of creep into our dialogue and into our consciousness slowly.
How easily people are swayed that things aren't that simple, but that people want to believe in something, and that sometimes they don't think clearly and see the situation for what it is. For Tended what we're living through right now, because I personally think we're living through an incredibly ridiculous and rather terrifying point in time where things are falling apart to some degree.
I was mentioning to one of my friends a line that really resonated with me was how we point to fate when really it's our stupidity and our complicity with evil.
It's representative of how initially around the Donald Trump scenario that we didn't recognize the threat right away, and that initially people were like, it's fine, and it's just silly, and it's a joke, and it's fine.
Simply how guilty we're all, not just a group of people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, you can look from the outside and say, can't you see that? But we probably all have instances where we haven't been able to see the reality or the truth of the matter.
Unlike Donald Trump, the Frank theaters will not ban Muslims or Muslim actors. So we met Mohammed Yabdri, who was one of the cast. Talked about how you prepare for this role in the Arsonists. Is it a little bit different how you prepare back home when you do an Arabic?
Yeah, it's. I would say two things. There is like the general preparation as an actor in general. So it's read the script, go deep in your character and his relation with the other characters. Because English is my third language, so of course I search some words, some keywords that I don't understand. So even the situation is clear, but sometimes each word has this power. Totally different because I am glad that I am considered as an actor, and that's it.
Not an Arab actor.
Exactly. Wendy gave me this opportunity to be the actor in the ensemble. And work together rather than consider each actor by his ethnicity or his culture. That's a great opportunity for me.
Thank you so much. We wish you well. Thank you.